Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my fourth weekly wrap-up of January 2015, wherein I tell you about the things that I read this past week. I wanted to say thank you to everybody who has subscribed to me in the past week or so. Attention is a rare resource in this world, and the fact that you are subscribing to me and giving me a little bit of your attention a couple times a week is probably the greatest compliment a YouTuber can ever get, so thank you. Also, thank you to the people who have mentioned me. I don't know, you probably know who you are a lot better than I do, but I know Catherine from the Androids Conundrum has mentioned me recently, as well as Victoria. So yes, thank you to everybody, and I will endeavor to continue making videos that people want to watch. Today I am going to start with an honorable mention, which is a book that I did not finish. It was the audiobook version of The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This is an audiobook that my mom was telling me about. She really loved the narrator of this book, and she was telling me about how the book begins and the basic plot. And I thought, that sounds interesting. I've heard a lot about Donna Tartt's books here recently, and The Goldfinch did just win the Pulitzer Prize. I DNF'd it because it was slow, it was sad, and it was going to be 32.5 hours of slow and sad. And I really was not in the mood for that. Now, once I DNF'd it, my mother told me the entire story, all the spoilery bits, and at the end of her recounting this tale to me, my response was, I'm pretty sure this is exactly what I said. I don't get the point of that. My mother says this is a very psychological book. She really enjoyed it, so instead of taking my opinion on this, because I think this is genuinely a book that just wasn't for me, take my mother's opinion. She really liked it. She'd probably recommend it to you. The first book that I did finish this past week was The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I really enjoyed this classic. I have no other epic length classic to compare it to. This is my first one. It was really enjoyable. I'm not going to talk about this book too much because I did just film a review of it that will probably go up on Monday, but I can say it's a classic. I really recommend that you read. Don't be put off by the length. And if you're going to read this book, read the Robin Buss translation, which I think is the Penguin edition that a lot of people see. It was very well done. The second book that I finished this week was The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu, translated by Ken Liu. Oh, I love the science and the math and the technical discussions in this book. I loved how the story hung on understanding the science so much. I know a lot of people don't like that kind of thing, but I am super into the hard science fiction, and I will read pages of scientific mathematical explanation without blinking. Love it. Now, I do also expect in modern science fiction that there should be character development and an actually good plot in addition to science and math, and I think this book does that as very well too. Oh my god. The character of Wendy, we'll call her Wen, because I can pronounce that. She's one of the most complex and really out of my comfort zone characters I have read in a while, and I didn't know whether to feel bad for her, to love her, to hate her at certain points, and I really don't know how much my inability to understand her actions comes from the fact that I just don't understand her culture. I don't understand the times in which she was living. The entire aspect of just Chinese society and culture and how they behave, the weight of history on these people, the weight of and importance of politics and the political environment at any given time is really strange to me. As an American, I don't really know that much about Chinese history, and everything that I ever learned about it was from an extremely American-centric viewpoint. And Ken Liu made a point in the translator's note at the end of it. He explains that he did try to translate the Chinese perspective on Chinese history without imposing non-Chinese opinions in there. And I really appreciated that. Besides the fact that this is a fiction book, besides the fact that it is science fiction, it's the first book I have read by a Chinese author and translated from Chinese, and it kind of upends a lot of what I think about China and Chinese culture, you know, the history of China as well as modern day China. That alone is worth reading the book for. The basic story, I don't even know how to explain the story of this. I understand now why so many of the reviews that I have seen of this book seem extremely different. It's hard to explain what's going on, especially because there are so many fake outs in this book, like Wang, one of the main characters, and Wen, throughout their journeys trying to figure out what's going on in the story, they are both lied to and told different versions of what's really going on. And you don't discover until the very end of the book what is really happening. Humanity is not homogeneous, and that scientific communities are not homogeneous. I think those are two very important ideas that come out of this book, and that you should go into this book thinking that as well, because many characters try to view humanity as homogeneous, when in fact we're all very different. I enjoy reading a book that has themes like that, that makes me think about that. It's so easy to be very insulated in your own world, in your own country, in your own nationality, and in your own language, and go through your entire life not understanding, not knowing at all that it is different for other people somewhere else. 5 out of 5 stars for this book. The next book that I finished was a little one. It is The Thoughts and Happenings of Wilfred Price, Purveyor of Superior Funerals by Wendy Jones. This is a book that I discovered through Victoria's channel and thought, that looks interesting. That looks totally like something I wouldn't read, but it still looks interesting. And notice something about the cover? Decapitated lady. This is the story of Wilfred Price. He lives in a small Welsh village. He is a funeral director. He is a young man with a new trade, getting ready to think about having a wife, and he is going on a picnic with this young woman named Grace. She's wearing a lovely yellow dress. He is having lustful thoughts, shall we say, and in the moment he proposes, and she says yes. And he did not mean to propose, and he's trying to figure out how to fix his mistake. This starts off as what could be too easily called a sweet kind of romancy story. Keep reading. It gets darker. It gets more complicated. It's ultimately kind of a story about one of those innocent-looking, quiet villages where everything seems perfect, but when you finally peel back some of the layers, you see dark things happen. My opinion of this book is that the story was interesting. Wilfred was a character so easy to empathize for. I felt so bad for him. I felt so bad for Grace. I also felt really bad for Flora. You end up feeling bad for everybody. And while there's kind of a happy ending for Wilfred, in a way, his happy ending kind of hurts Grace, and I can't tell you really why. Oh, I felt so bad for her. There are two people caught in a situation where no matter what they do, they're not going to be completely happy. They will hurt somebody. They will suffer themselves. I wanted to mention, interestingly, that in the blurb of this 2014 edition of this book, it says that this book has been optioned for a mini-series by the producers of Downton Abbey. That could be quite interesting. I can really see how that might work. The atmosphere is there. So if you like Downton Abbey and you don't mind kind of romance books, then try this one. It's worth taking a look at. The last thing that I finished this week was Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling. I listened to this on audiobook, mostly just to say that I had listened to it, that I knew what was in it, because it's one of those books that comes up a lot when you're talking about celebrity memoirs, like Tina Fey's book, Amy Poehler's book, Patrick Harris's book, and it was okay. The only thing I know about Kaling is from her book, and I guess what I could say is that I thought it was quite well written. I thought she had a really great attitude throughout the book. She wrote it well, and she only mentions in one place the process of writing the book, and she basically says, yeah, it's hard, but it's fun too, which is the complete opposite of the attitude that Amy Poehler had in her memoir, as far as I can tell. So, thank you, Kaling, for having a positive attitude about writing a book, even though it's hard. I gave this a very average rating. It was a great thing to just listen to while I was sitting on the couch crocheting yesterday. But I don't have much else to say about it, so oh well. So really quickly, what I am currently reading. I will soon be halfway through The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafon. This is the book that I am reading with my friend Rachel. We're taking it kind of slowly, so I'm not going to be finishing this for another 2 weeks or so. I am also reading Trafalgar by Angelica Gorodischer. I couldn't wait, I had to just dive right in. I'm taking it a bit slowly, but it is quite short, so I hope to finish it this coming week, and I would like to try to do a review on it. I feel like it merits a review. That is what I read. That is what I'm currently reading. I'm not entirely sure what else I will read this coming week. And yeah, I have talked once again for an exceptionally long amount of time. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you again in my next video. So, bye!